All right, guys, what is up? Welcome, welcome. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to go to the next level with their brand. I am your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me the man himself, Mr. Bobby Stealth. And today we're going to be getting into some interesting information when it comes to building your brand. If you tune in with us live, then go ahead and put your comments in the chat, put your flames in, and also let us know where you're listening in from. Bobby, what's up?
I'm still on fire from last night, Junior. Last night's call was crazy. Last night's call was crazy, man. It was
Oh,
crazy.
man.
Um, Guys, like if y'all been watching us, y'all been following the brand. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. What you get here is just the tip of the iceberg. Like Junior was building some stuff out for us last night that had me like, whoa, let's go. I need that. I in the middle of the recording, I was like, yo, Junior, I need you to tag this one because I can sell this. Like this is so good. Like it markets itself. Like, hey, who needs to know how to make money in their business yesterday and need to know the step-by-step sequence to do so? Hey, oh, by the way, who's doing A, B, C, D, and you need to build that offer in order to get those prospects, those leads to close. Like it was crazy. So I'm feeling great, brother. Phenomenal job last night, by the way. And ladies and gentlemen, if y'all are a part of the brand, let them know what last night was like for you. But for me personally, phenomenal. Feeling phenomenal this morning.
Bobby, I don't know what to say. Thank you very much, man. I'm always very humbled when people say that kind of stuff. Dr. Michelle says last night's training was fire. Yeah, like I say, and by the way, you all make it fire too because phenomenal questions lead to phenomenal answers. So like I just try to give the people what they need, bro. I just try to give the people what they need. Yeah, last night's training was something else. Somebody already asked me for the replay. So we're gonna be sending those replays out um, to the people that are on the inside of the community. What I will say is, if you have other people that you feel like could benefit from being inside the community and they have not made the decision to join us yet, sometime next month we'll actually be opening up an opportunity so that people could join us for like one night just to get the experience of what it's like to be there. Okay, and we'll just see where it goes. It's gonna be very, very fun. It's gonna be amazing. So guys, you definitely want to be there. All right, definitely want to be there. Yes, sir. But Bobby, tell me about your day, man. Did you go running today?
Junior, I gotta stop talking to you before these calls. Like I got I got injured. I got injured. So I remember you telling me that you was out of commission and you were working hard, and then you had some things going on that you had to take a break. So I'm listening to you, I'm talking to you every morning, I'm working hard. I'm like, Junior, he's probably not stretching, probably not drinking enough water, I'm not saying those things, right? But I get out there and I work it hard, and then it happens to me. So I pulled something in the top right trap. It goes down through that shoulder. So this morning I didn't go running, but I did work out yesterday, and I'm gonna be working out again today. But I was forced to do the stairmaster. I couldn't lift
Mm,
like I wanted to. I had to do something that was more anaerobic in nature, more cardio in nature. But
yeah.
today I may be confined to the bike. I still wouldn't want to push it, but I may do some calisthenics. I did work out this morning as far as my calisthenics is concerned. So I did my morning push-ups, and that's just routine for me. But that's where I'm at workout wise, man. I'm in the same boat, recovering because we push it, guys. Like we go hard, and when you go hard, you got to be smart.
Yeah, that took me out for like 7 days, bro. So be careful.
Smart.
I just started working out. I started working out again yesterday. And today, of course, I'll be working out as well, but that took me out for like 7 days. So you you definitely want to be careful with that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
But Bobby, let's go to a quick break. When we come back, guys, we're gonna get into the topic. Of course, make sure you have your pen, your notepad, your paper, whatever it is, and get ready because we're gonna dive into this one. So you don't want to miss it. Let's go.
the reason why I did this and what I do is help leaders to become brands and brand themselves. You train people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. I teach authenticity marketing. If people can take advantage of you, they will in your personal or professional existence.
My biggest takeaway just from day one is you are the brand. I would recommend it to anybody that's really looking to build a personal brand.
Just the brand in general has changed my life. I've grown so much since I've been a part of this.
I see myself in what he does, and I believe in it just as much as I believe in myself.
There's slow growth and then there's scale. There's incremental growth and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 + 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 + 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 + 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 + 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence, add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow.
All right, guys, so we are back, and today we're talking about, is your brand built to last? Like, is your brand built to last? Bobby, did you know that there is, I think it's either a restaurant or like a hotel in Japan that's like 1,000 years old? Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
I kid you not. You can look it up. Anybody look it up. There's a hotel, I believe, in Japan. I think the oldest known business, like business that in existence today that still exists is like almost 1,000 years old. So can you imagine a business running for like 1,000 years? No joke. Literally hundreds of years. Okay, and they're still going strong today. Imagine that. So today's topic is your brand built to last. I think this is going to be very interesting. I'm going to let you take the lead on this one, Bobby, and sort of pose the questions. But whenever you're ready, let's get into it. This is going to be exciting.
Yeah, Junior, I'm ready right now, because as we were on the break, I was writing down some names, and I'm going to lead with the personal brands, and then I'm going to lead with the corporate brands, because this conversation, I want us to really just analyze and dissect. I want us to just, look at some things from different angles and let the audience infer their own truths, discover their own answers. And of course, we'll give some insights from our perspective. But here we go. Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, Bo Jackson. Just about everybody knows who these people are, if you're in the US or not. Now, granted, these are all US individuals that I've named here, but all around the world, they know who Michael Jordan is. They probably wear his shoes. They probably make his shoes.
Yep.
And can't afford to wear them. And that's okay, And then everybody knows who Muhammad Ali is. He's the greatest. And those, like, maybe Bo Jackson is not as profound, but those that follow sports, anybody that's serious about sports knows Bo Jackson. Played football, basketball, and like some other sport professionally. And he was like the guy. So think about those brands. Those are personal brands that are still here today, athletic brands. Then you've got Tupac, Biggie, Bob Marley. People might not even like rap, but they know who Tupac is. They might not like New York in general, but they know, baby, baby. Like, they know that guy. It's like, what? How do I know him? That's a brand, and it lasts, and it's still around. Like Tupac's been dead for almost 20 years, but he's still being talked about. He still has a brand. Like I want us to talk and think about why these brands are still around. Like what is it about what they did while they were here that are making them so renowned? Then you got Bob Marley, right? So those are some personal brands that you guys can just think about and some ways that, okay, well, what was so prolific about them? Because that's what we're going to dive into. Now, here's some corporate brands. McDonald's. A lot of people know about the Ronald McDonald's. They know about the brothers, but then they know about the asset itself. A lot of people know about Henry Ford, and they know about the Ford Corporation. The Ford is still around. A lot of people know about Andrew Carnegie. Now, Andrew Carnegie is not really one of those corporate brand names, such as you're not going to go find Carnegie something, but Carnegie Hall is still here. And the Carnegie Library was one of the first libraries, if not the first library, that was built with I think, for the public, to the public, for everybody to come engage with. But they did build one of the first libraries, and his name is forever etched in American history. And then lastly, we've got fashion brands. These are name brands: Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and Rolex. Now, as we dive into today's conversation, I want you to think about your brand. I want you to think about how long you plan to stick around. Is your brand built to last? Like, what are you doing now that is going to make you relevant 20 years from now? Like, imagine that. Like, what am I doing today that's going to keep me around? And I'll turn it over to you, Junior, just to get your perspective on some of these personal brands, some of these corporate brands, and kind of what do you think is unique about them that's helped them stay around for as long as they have been around and making money for that matter.
Yeah, I think one of the factors that have led to the longevity of certain brands is definitely the impact. Like, bro, when you think about Bob Marley, impact, like it's crazy. Like, I don't know how it is in your country, but in the Caribbean, bro, everybody knows. Like, babies know who Bob Marley is.
That's right. That's right.
Babies know babies know who Bob Marley is. So it's just about impact. Now, when I go a little bit deeper, and if you look at people like Tupac as well, I think their music or their brand had a message. You could look at Martin Luther King. Like, there are so many brands. Nelson Mandela, okay, they had a message. They had a universal, timeless message. Like, you could play a Bob Marley song today, and the message in that song is still relevant, like long after he's gone, and it's still going to be relevant long after we're gone. You know what I mean? Like Bob Marley's and so many of these brands, they're gonna transcend time. They live forever because the story and the impact is generational. But why is it generational? Is because the message is generational. Like they're saying something, okay, that transcends time. So I think that's one aspect. When you look at other brands, I wrote down disruptors. So what is a disruptor? The way you disrupt an industry is you do something cheaper, faster, or better, or a combination of all three. So if you build a business that you could do it cheaper, you could do it faster, or you could do it better, then you could literally disrupt an industry. That's what AI is doing. AI is cheaper, AI is faster, and most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, AI is better at a human than doing something. So it's like, okay, why would I go with a human when I could just have the AI do it? The AI is cheaper, faster, better, and that is disrupting so many industries, from coaching to manufacturing to project management to literally like almost every industry you can possibly think of. Now, when you look at timeless brands like, let's say, McDonald's, KFC, these restaurant style brands, what they did in their time was they disrupted the industry. Domino's is another good example. Disrupt their industry, right? So they did something at a time where it wasn't really normal. Okay, they created impact. They influenced. It's almost like when you look at when you look at, let's go back to rap. The rappers that you consider to be like, let's say the greats, they are the people that are really like pioneers for certain styles, certain genres. Like Kanye West is a pioneer for so many different genres, so many different styles. You could go into so many people, Jay-Z, etc., etc. And even before that, you have people like Big Pun, Big L. All of these people, they pioneered so many, so many things. KRS-One, right? So many people, they became pioneers for certain styles, certain genres, and then they etched themselves into the history books as great, right? So impact, disruption, but also to tie it in, Bobby, every brand has a phenomenal story. Every brand has a story, from Fiji Water to Rolex to Louis Vuitton. They all have a brand story. There's a beginning, there's an inception, there is something that can carry a message. Now, when you think about stories, we can go all the way back to our ancestors. In fact, there are stories today, Bobby, that are told today that I know for a fact that are thousands of years old. I'm talking about stories from the Sumerian tablets, things like the Epic of Gilgamesh, stories, the Indians, they have something called the Adra Hasis. Like these are things that are literally thousands of years old. And the stories have made it into modern day books like the Bible, for example. The story of Moses came from the Epic of Gilgamesh. And so there's just so much. These things came literally 6,000, like thousands and thousands of years old. But the point of me saying this is that they are transferred through storytelling. Okay, so when you have a story, the story allows you, it's like a vehicle that allows you to transcend time. So when you think of Tupac, okay, everybody knows Tupac's story. Everybody knows what happened. Okay. That story and his message is like a passenger, and the story is like the vehicle. The story helps the message to transcend time and have the generational impact that creates a phenomenal brand.
That's
So
good.
that's right, Dr. Michelle. Brand origin story. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I wrote down as you were talking was truth is timeless. Truth is timeless. And I think what a lot of these brands have in common is either telling the truth or owning their truth. One of the two, but truth is at the center. So if, in Tupac's case, he's telling the truth. He's like, hey, um, even as a crack fiend, mama, you was always a black queen, mama. So that's one of his songs that, or one of the lyrics from one of his songs, Dear Mama, I believe was the name of it, or something like that. And in this story, he's talking to the downtrodden people, or the downtrodden African American people of the time, and telling the women at that time that you're valuable no matter what you're doing to cope with the cards you're dealt. That's timeless, and it's true. No matter how you manage with what you're dealing with, you're still a valuable human being. And when you find ways to cope positively with the stress and communicate your value effectively, then you are a respectable human being. So all of these different things, I think, when it comes to telling the truth, have to do with telling truths that are timeless. When it comes to owning your truth, I would say Carnegie, Ford, maybe Gucci, those guys would fall into that category for me. Even Muhammad Ali would fall into that category, but he did a little bit of both. So for Ford, he was more like, we're going to replace these horses and we're going to do it cheaper, faster, and better, much like Junior said. We are going to disrupt the automobile market, and and that was his, and he did it.
That's
Those that
right.
don't know this story, Ford Ford lost his company, so to speak, 3 times. The first time he tried to raise money and he failed. Like, he raised the money and he went to production and it was unsuccessful. The The second time he did it, he went to production, unsuccessful. The third time he did it, went to production, and it was still tough. So what he ended up realizing was that the people that had the money wanted more control over the production than they deserved because they weren't engineers. Now, the reason I share that aspect of the story is because he stayed true to his truth. Henry Ford, those that know his biography and his story know he was a very stubborn man. Like, he would hold on to certain models with a vigor and faith that it was going to work long before. Like, when most people would say stop, he would go like 4 or 5 times more, and then he would eventually stop. This is significant because those are your Donald Trumps. Those are your Andrew Carnegies. Those are your Henry Fords. Those are your Kanye Wests. Those are people that they die on their sword, and their truth is their truth is their truth. And they believe in that truth until it comes true. And I think those are two ways of building timeless brands. And that brings us right to the middle of the hour. So we can definitely go to a break unless you have something, Junior. But I would tie it up before the break saying, is your brand telling a truth or sticking to a truth, or both? But if you're not doing either, that's probably not a great sign. But if you're doing one or the other, double down, get focused, and lean in to what you're doing.
I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. I said Shaan Ride East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and you know, game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes.
All right, guys, so we're back. And before we went to the break, Bobby, you were talking about the concept of truth. Right now, you know, I talk about this all the time on the show. When you ask me about a business principle that I subscribe to, is truth. Because, you know, one of my mentors used to say something. He used to say that you cannot cheat the game. You cannot cheat the game. There's no way you can cheat the game. And that's with any kind of game, whether it's business, you know, whether it's something else, you just cannot cheat the game. So you have to move based on truth. You have to move based on truth. So when you tell truth, like you were saying, through your brand, you end up getting the result that you're looking for, which is the longevity, right? Which is the impact, which is the money, which is all of those phenomenal things. So I agree with that. And I subscribe to that. And to me, I see that as a law. Like, we were talking about laws of business yesterday. I see that as a law. If you're in sales, your job in sales should be to get as close to the truth as possible in your outreach, in your closing. And when I say truth, I mean by the process. Like, get to the most accurate process as possible in your follow-up, in your selling process, in your closing. and then you should have success. Like it's almost a given that you will have success because success is truth. If something works, it means that it's true. That's just the way I see. If something works, Bobby, if I can fly a plane across, like from St. Lucia to New York, it means that flight is true. It means that it exists. That's just the way I see it.
Mhm. That is really good, Junior. And as I'm just thinking about all the different businesses that I've seen, all the different people that I've helped, a lot of times truth isn't cheap. Truth isn't cheap. So there's this saying that goes, the truth will set you free, right? Put a one in the chat if you ever heard that. I think we've all heard that. The truth will set you free. Now, let's imagine that there is a entity out there that benefits from your enslavement. Okay, let's just imagine. Now, enslavement doesn't necessarily mean you're chained and shackled down and working for nothing. Like, we're not saying that, but let's say that there is a group of people that benefit from you turning and burning, from you working 50 weeks out of the year and taking 2 for yourself. Maybe there's a group of people that benefit from you spending all of your money on expenses and having no money for growth and development. So in the event that there is an entity out there that benefits from your enslavement, would you imagine that it would be free or cheap in order to free yourself? Like, if there's an entire group, an entity that benefits from your enslavement, how expensive do you think it would be for you to get free? Because if you're free, then they no longer benefit from you. Now, if they're no longer benefiting from you, then they've got to find more people to, say, enslave in this imaginary world. Now, in the event that you're building a business and you're leaving the workforce and you feel like the workforce to you is the rat race, the 9 to 5, the turning in the burning, the asking for days off, the not being able to go where you want, when you want, with who you want, and finding that there's more month at the end of the money and not enough money at the end of the month. Like, that's your reality and you don't like it. If that's the case, leaving that reality means you need to know one thing primarily, and that is the truth. And the truth is, there's a lot of ways to make money. That's the truth. Like, you do not have to go to work in order to make money. Now, an additional truth to that is you have to know how to make money. So if you know how to get a job, then you know how to make money through employment. If you don't have a job and you're looking to make money, you have to know how to make money with a business if you're planning to do this legally. And even those that are not the most legal enterprises have systems. There's no way around that. If you're going to accumulate money, you've got to be able to do it in a systematic and repeatable way. So what does all of this have to do with truth? All of this has to do with the investments that you make in you in order to find out the truth. Most people don't know the truth because they're not willing to pay for it. For whatever reason, they think that truth is free, but it's not. The truth costs you something. And most people think that it's money. That's that's the least expensive thing. Like, sure, the money may be a lot at the time, but money, you can replace money. Like, that's easy to replace. The most expensive thing about purchasing truth is, in my experience, abandoning old beliefs. Because in order for you to accept this new truth, you've got to be willing to let go of what you used to believe. You've got to be willing to say, okay, 1, I've taken this money. 2, I've invested this money. 3, someone is telling me something that I never really would imagine to be true, and they're asking me to believe it's true, and I'm not getting any results right now because I'm just learning this truth. So I haven't learned how to really execute on all of this. So as I pass it back to Junior, one thing that I want everybody to think about right now is, do you know the truth? Is the truth that you know working for you? Because I'll tell you something, you believe something because you're acting. And the actions that you're taking right now, if you want to believe it or not, are based on what you believe. If you believe you're not going to be able to make money, so you might not spend money. If you don't believe that you're going to be able to pay this particular car note, you might not get that particular car. Like everything you do is based on what you believe and though the truths that you believe. So my question to you is, do you know the truth that you need to know in order to give you the belief that you need to take the actions that are going to move you toward where you want to go? And most people are believing in something, and that something may very well be true to them, but is that truth benefiting you? And that's a very interesting conversation that we're not going to dive into, because now we're looking at, can two things be true at the same time? And we're not even going to go down that road.
Yeah. So let me just clarify. Like when I say truth, I'm talking about the undebatable truth. I'm talking about the absolute truth. Everybody has a version of their truth. Like what's true for me may not be true for you. But there's always a middle ground where none of us can argue. Like for example, is the sky blue? Whether you're in Florida or you're in St. Lucia, the sky is blue. Now you could be a little colorblind and say, well, I think the sky looks a little green. That's fine. But the sky is blue. You know, you can't really argue that with me. Like, is the cloud in the sky? Yes, it's in the sky. It's above me. It's not underneath my feet, even if you perceive it to be so. So there are certain things that are just undebatably true, and that's what I sort of optimize for, and that's sort of what I'm talking about when I say truth. I'm not talking about perspective. Perspective is not necessarily truth. Truth is just truth. It's just real. Perspective is relative. So there's the absolute and then there's the relative. So the absolute is what I'm referring to when I say truth. The relative is what is relative to that person. And that's what we can control. That's what we can control. And that's what we should seek to master. And I'll tell you this, Bobby, I had so many things about myself I thought were true that were just not true. But when I look at myself and I said, okay, where did I get these thoughts? These thoughts came from people and places that didn't necessarily have my best interest at heart. I'll give you a couple examples of these truths, quote unquote truths.
Mm-hmm.
So for a long time, I thought like I wasn't a public speaker, right? So for example, if you came to me and you said to me, Junior, are you a speaker or are you a public speaker? I'll tell you no. I know I'm not a public speaker. What are you talking about? And then another one is like, are you, so we have this thing where we say, well, are you like let's just say a high I, for example. Are you a high I, or are you not even a high I, but are you like an introvert, for example? A lot of people are introverts. Some people would say, yes, I'm an introvert. Well, interestingly enough, if you sell yourself on the fact that, hey, you're not an introvert, okay, you've just been taught to behave in a certain way, you tend not to be an introvert. So there are truths that you can change. Like you can become a different person. Like like Jim Rohn says, if you don't like who you are, change. You're not a tree. Like move. You're not a tree. You don't have to stay stuck in the same place. Okay. So the relative truth, I try my best. And when I talk about recreating yourself, what I'm talking about is assessing your relative truth, what's relatively true for you, and then adjusting it to get the result or the life that you want.
That's good.
Because, hey, if I believe that I wasn't a speaker, I would probably wouldn't be doing this right now. Why would I speak if I'm not a speaker?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I believe that I wasn't a marketer, I would have never done copywriting. If I believed that, if I perceived myself as, but you can perceive yourself differently and you have a choice. and you get to control what you perceive. And then, one of my favorite sayings, and this is not my original saying. This is actually by a reverend, a very famous reverend. His name eludes me right now, but he used to say, "What you recognize, you energize, and you maximize." Something like that. What you recognize, you energize. So if you recognize something, you tend to energize it. If you recognize a quality, you energize that quality. If you recognize your quality of discipline, you energize that quality in yourself, and then you become more disciplined. That's literally how it works. If you start to observe certain qualities about yourself, those qualities grow. So what you energize, you recognize, or what you recognize, you energize, and then you magnetize. That's it. What you recognize, you energize, and then you magnetize. So you magnetize meaning that you pull it towards you. So if you recognize that, hey, I am a speaker, you tend to magnetize that quality towards yourself. If you recognize, hey, I am fit, like I can be fit, like I can be in this particular shape, I am that kind of person, you start to magnetize and attract, meaning that you start to attract the qualities of that persona to yourself. If you say, I am a reader, I'm an avid reader, you tend to become an avid reader. If you say, I'm a phenomenal brand, you tend to become a phenomenal brand because that's how the universe works.
What came to mind was bodybuilders. And let me tell you why. Like, a bodybuilder envisions a physique, and then they start working toward developing their body into that physique. And I think that's what we have to do as people. We've got to be, I wouldn't call us bodybuilders, but maybe we got to be recreators of ourselves. Much like Junior says, like, you got to envision this version of yourself that you want to see. And then once you envision this version of yourself you want to see, build that version of you, much like a bodybuilder does. And these guys, like, if you've ever seen real gung-ho bodybuilders, like, they're in the gym with the shaker, they've got the gym bag, and then they've got like this book, and they're recording everything, how many sets they did, and then they're sipping on their proteins or whatever they're doing, or their pre-workout as they're going through the workouts. And the reason I share that is because when you're building a brand that lasts, like building something that lasts, I think it also has to do with recreating yourself at each stage. So I'm thinking of two instances. One instance was when Michael Jordan came back to the league. So when Michael Jordan came back to the league, he was crushing it. And he got 3 more rings. But he had to recreate himself every year to get better and better and better. So I think one component of a long-lasting brand is the ability to recreate. Another brand that comes to mind like that is the Donald Trump brand. Like, at one point he was this casino hotel mogul. At another point he's this TV host on The Apprentice. At another point he's like this influencer kind of online talking about things and a very controversial entity. And then at another point he's the president of the United States. He's like recreating himself over and over and over again in different ways. And that just adds to his longevity and to that brand's longevity. Michael Jordan did the same thing. Muhammad Ali did the same thing, in which he was floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee when he was young, but then he became the champ. So when he had something to prove, that Ali was a very different Ali than the one that was, I'm too pretty. You can't, like, the I'm too pretty, you can't touch what your eyes can't see. cut off that light. Oh, too late. You know, like that Ali was very different from the humbled, yeah, you know, champ. You know, I've got nothing left to say, but he's still whooping up on people. But he's just he's a different man. So I would say to the audience right now, because this is for you guys, like I hope y'all are getting something from this, is what was what's the best version of you that you can appreciate? Now that's an interesting question. So what I'm saying is I want you to think back to a time in your life where you felt like you were killing it. You were crushing it. Right? And when you think about that time in your life, and really quickly to answer Michelle's question, what you recognize, you energize, and what you energize, you magnetize, I believe is how that quotation went. But
Yeah, she's asking was it Reverend Ike? So yes, it was Reverend Ike.
got
Yes.
it. Good. So I got to look into Reverend Ike because I don't know who that is. I don't follow him.
You don't know Reverend Ike? Oh man, you need to look it up.
Yeah.
Won't not bother.
So what I was saying was the question to ask you guys itself is, when were you the best version of you that you could appreciate? And then just think about that version of you. And then think about what version of you would you have to be in order to put that version of you to shame? Like the best version of you could think of. And then it's like, who would I have to be to put that version of me to shame? And just think about, would you have to eat better? Would you have to sleep better? Would you have to work harder? Would you have to read more? Would you have to think differently? And I think that's a really good exercise for beginning the self-recreation process. So that's what I wanted to say to the piece that you just said about recreation. And I just wanted to tie that back to what makes brands, what strengthens a brand's longevity. I think it has a lot to do with the ability to recreate oneself.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen this even with more modern brands. I use Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. We saw Dwayne, like if you watch WWE back in the day, WWF, like you saw him transform from the wrestler to the movie star to the producer, etc., to then being the business owner, the investor, which he is now, to then being the fitness brand. So he's always recreating himself. Taylor Swift is another example who has recreated herself several times over the years. She went from being, the typical persona of like this high school girl who keeps falling in love and getting her heart broken to where she is now. We see Mr. Beast as well evolving like to now like owning like this billion-dollar company, billion-dollar brand. So we see brands consistently recreating themselves as they grow. And to me, that's normal because people grow. So if I'm growing, okay, obviously my brand should grow as well because it's a personal brand. So I agree with that, Bobby. I mean, if you don't recreate yourself, chances are you're not going to last,
Mm-hmm.
especially in today's age.
Yeah. And that just makes me think about adaptability and flexibility, just being super fluid, of being able to roll with the punches and flow where the money is, so to speak, but be there before the money gets there. That's a interesting way to think about it. So like you want to be flowing, and when I say flowing, you want to be able to do in real time what's necessary for the moment, but you also want to have enough vision to be where you need to be when the floodgates open, because I feel like a lot of times, and when I say I feel like, this is me saying in my experience, like from what I know as a finance expert and being in the back office of so many businesses, a lot of them, they just miss the windfall. They just miss the windfall. So this business was actually built to some degree on a windfall. So when COVID-19 happened, Shaan was in position. He was in perfect position. He was a speaker. He was a traveler. He was a business owner that had results and success. He was branded. He knew how to make it shake and rain on Zoom or in the room. So having all of these things and being flexible. So when they said, hey, planes are grounded, you can't go anywhere. Oh, by the way, curfew. And he was in New York, you know, so New York was a lot more strict than many other places just due to the population. So he's pretty much confined to four walls. And he's like, okay, now what? Like, how am I going to figure this out? And I think the windfall that we experienced was nobody could go anywhere. All the money was in four walls. And the only people that could get to it were those that knew how to use a camera to communicate to someone else in their four walls. And that was one of the ways, I think, without getting into the details, we did the crazy numbers that were done. It was like $450,000 or something like that in 90 days. How is that possible? That's a windfall. And what I see from a lot of businesses is that they aren't in position for the windfall. Like when everything is supposed to come their way, they're just out of position. And most times they're out of position, not because they're not in the right place at the right time. They just weren't flexible enough at the right time to get into position. And I'll stop there, but like that's like going deeper into business strategy, but like flexibility and fluidity is crucial to optimizing opportunities when they come to maximize the windfall gain, which is what normally catapults businesses.
All right, guys, we're going to take a 1-minute break and come right back. So stay tuned. We'll be back very soon.
When I think of brand you, I think of being your best self, your most authentic. The reason why we were able to crush business, absolutely dominate in business without having the marketing list, without having the email huge list, without having the Facebook ads and the advertising budget, without knowing the algorithm. The reason we were able to do this is because I branded myself. I told my authentic story and I was comfortable in my skin. Why? Because it was that time in the world where everything was shifting. It was 2020, March. So you remember what happened during that time. It was like the world was coming to an end. So you didn't have anything to hold back. So I chose to give everything that I had and be everything that I am. And because I was that, because I branded me, because I was authentic, everything shifted. And people wanted more. And they wanted to know more about me and how they could become more comfortable in their skin. Listen, guys, when you brand you and not what you do, you're going to add a zero to the world, but you'll also add a zero to your revenue. Let's grow.
All right, guys, so we're back. Today's conversation has been around, is your brand built to last? And Bobby, we went through so many tips and so many points for how people could take away and make that brand last. If you sort of had to sum it up into something very simple, a very, very simple statement that people could take away, what would you say?
It's a good one, Junior. It's a really good one. One statement I would say, grow. Actually, I'll say it this way. Pain is temporary. Honor is forever. So do whatever it takes, no matter how painful it is, and keep your honor clean. If you do that, you will find truth along the way, because I think there are degrees of truth. And if we're saying, you know, building businesses on truth and truth is what is timeless, all that good stuff. If I had to say it in a phrase, I would say pain is time, or pain is temporary, honor is forever. So honor yourself, honor your vision, and understand that the pain will pass. You're not going to know everything. Some things are going to hurt. You're going to lose friends. You're going to lose loved ones. Like, it's going to hurt, but it's temporary. But the honor that you place upon yourself and the work you do, that's timeless.
That's a good one. That's pretty good, Bobby. For me, if I had to put it into a statement, I would say, hmm, I would say lean onto an idea that is timeless, an idea that transcends not only your mind but the mind of others. Don't lean on to just your own understanding, but make it about a shared idea, an idea that everyone shares, an idea that everybody could relate to, that everybody needs. Because check this out, you can get rid of a person, but you cannot get rid of an idea.
Mhm.
Even if you remove a person, that's how people become martyrs. You take out that person, you cannot take out the idea. As long as the idea exists, that person will always exist and they will live on through their idea. So, what is your big idea for your brand? If you can figure that out, then you could have a timeless brand. Thank you.